Oh, Caligula!
Yes, what is it?
Don't lean against that pillar!
What?
I say, don't lean against that pillar!
Why?
The workmen say it hasn't quite set up yet.
Don't lean against what?
That pillar you're standing next to!
You mean this one?
Yes, that one!
I shall lean against it if I so wish.
Caligula, no! Don't lean against it!
The Fall of the Roman Empire will not be presented at this time in order to bring you the following special podcast.
It's almost live. Still alive.
It's alive!
A limited podcast series about Northwest Television's legendary TV sketch comedy show.
An amazing phenomenon.
Featuring intimate conversations with the writers, performers, creators.
Rustlers, cutthroats, murderers, bounty hunters, desperados, bushwhackers, hornswagglers, horse thieves, bulldykes, train robbers, bank robbers, ass kickers, shit kickers, and Methodists!
Your host was one of them.
I think I would remember a thing like that.
Pat Cashman.
What's the matter with you?
Almost live.
This is just a real nice surprise.
Still alive.
Just a real nice surprise.
In the earliest days of the show, Almost Live was heavily driven by a male viewpoint. Oh, sure, a few actresses were introduced in those first years, Andy Stein and Lynne McManus among them. But the show's first more regular female member got aboard largely because she happened to be the girlfriend of one of the show's regular cast members, Joe Guppy. We'll spend some time with him in a future podcast. But this one is about Nancy Guppy. And whether she came in the back door, the front window, or the skylight, once she arrived at Almost Live, the show was never the same. Nancy Harris grew up in Magnolia. She went to the UW, and then after meeting and marrying Joe Guppy, the two performed and wrote for Almost Live for a couple of years, before deciding in 1989 to move on to the bigger stages of Los Angeles. In 1992, they came back home, where Nancy eventually picked up again on Almost Live, but this time without Joe, and this time as not the only female on the show. She stayed with Almost Live for the remaining 7 years of its run. Since then, Nancy's been hanging out at the Seattle Channel, which is a channel in Seattle. She hosts a weekly culture show called Art Zone, which is like the old Twilight Zone without the black and white and the twist endings. Today, she and Joe live in a tasteful condo as quintessential Seattleites. They drive a hybrid, they eat organic, they work out, they recycle. The always busy, on-the-go Nancy happened to be at home the other day when I took the opportunity to chat with her about those increasingly distant days of Almost Live.
Yes, it is finally someone from the distaff side, Nancy Guppy, formerly Nancy Harris.
Yes.
And and you never went and hyphenated your name. At least I didn't think you did.
No. In fact, when I first started out in the world of entertainment, I was married to Joe, but I didn't take his name right away because I didn't want to be known as Joe Guppy's wife.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I mean, professionally, I did it legally. We got married. I was Nancy Guppy, but at that point, I didn't have any, I didn't have experience. I wasn't known in any way. And I felt like I'm going to be known as his wife. So I was Nancy Harris for a spell. And as soon as I found my footing and, kind of made a bit of a reputation, then I realized Guppy is like a billion times better name. So
it's a great name.
Yeah.
It's a name people will remember. So It's great. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You, Joe, I talked to Joe also in this little project I'm doing here. Mm-hmm. And what I'm always curious about is how people meet, and then the unlikelihood of you both being comedic, mm-hmm. or is that what attracted you to each other?
Well, I think starting with the the kind of how we met, the attraction. I first saw Joe on stage. He was with this group, Off the Wall Players.
Right.
And they did kind of a lot, original theatrical sketch stuff. And then they also did improv.
Sire! No!
So I saw him for the first time, didn't know him. And the group blew me away. They were so funny. First time I'd ever seen improv, and it was brilliant. Some of the most brilliant improv still to this day. And Joe really stood out to me, not as the best of the group, but he just had this wonderful, dry a sense of humor in presentation.
This is a story that could come to you from any city in America. But tonight, it begins here in front of the King County Courthouse, because I really like the robust alliteration of the words King County Courthouse.
So I knew of him. And then when I met him at his workplace, which was Cornish College of the Arts in the admin building, I went there to find somebody.
I love Cornish. You know, did you know that their athletic team is called the Game Hands? Yeah.
Are they pretty good? How are they rated? Are they like?
They're not good. They're not good.
They're not that good.
They're small. They're too small.
They make weird sounds.
Yeah. Did you say, God, I would like to date this guy, or how did that go?
Well, I went to this building and I was looking for somebody else. There's Joe, and I'm saying, I'm looking for this person. By the way, I've seen you on stage. You're really funny. That's what I told him. And then he, of course, who wouldn't like that? So he
said, will you marry me?
Exactly. And then we went to the Justice of Peace right then.
Wow.
So he
whirlwind.
He told me, like, the person you're looking for isn't working here anymore, but I'll give you their phone number. Oh, and by the way, why don't you give me yours just in case?
Ah, nice move.
Wasn't that good? And he
That's
called
really
me the
good.
next day, and we started going out. And I think one of Joe and my greatest strengths always has been, and to this day, is we really connect comedically. We connect on a creative way that I don't with pretty much anyone else. I mean, I have a lot of great connections creatively with other people, certainly almost live people, but Joe and I are on the same page totally. And so that's been a glue from the very beginning.
You weren't participating in Off the Wall Players. You weren't doing improv. You were working, I think, at Nordstrom, right? At the time, yes. That was your job, and
that was my job. And
what did you aspire to from that?
Oh God, Pat, I had no ass. I mean, I'm the latest bloomer in the universe, and I didn't know what I wanted to do after I got out of college. I got out of the UW in '82 with a speech communications degree. Really had no, I didn't know where to point my ship in any way, and so I was working at Nordstrom in the credit corporate side. I've been doing that in Christmas.
That sounds exciting.
It was really fun.
Yeah.
And what I recognized, Pat, was I could do the work there, but first of all, they were never going to promote me in management. I just didn't have the management, the skill set for management. I could do the work, right? But I also hated it. I didn't like it. I felt depressed. I didn't have any, like I said, direction. So I started taking an acting class in '84 at Seattle Central Community College just to do something different. I didn't have any aspirations on where that might lead. And that was the pivotal point for me of kind of recognizing performance, recognizing that I had this creative, more artistic side. Around that time, that's when I met Joe.
So
Joe was getting involved with Almost Live. So that's how that all happened.
So you're like 2 years out of college, and that's when you discover that you're funny, that you can do this. I would think you might.
Yeah, I think
doing that at grade school.
Yeah, I think that in junior high, I have a distinct memory. Probably 8th grade, there was a talent show every year, and I was part of one year. I was part of the thing called the script committee. It was a small group of us, 8 or 9 of us, who wrote these little short sketches that we would do in front of the audience between the bigger acts. So some band would play, curtains close, out come a few of us to do a sketch, 2-minute, 3-minute bit, right? Then we get off the stage, the curtains open, and then there's a dance thing or whatever.
And this was in high school?
This was in junior high.
Oh, in junior high. Okay.
And I remember this one bit, and I don't recall the content of it exactly, but I remember saying whatever line I had, and there was a very big laugh from the audience, and I noticed it. In the moment, I was just like, it wasn't like, oh, I now want to be a comedian or this is my path in life. It was just like it registered with me, and clearly it did because I'm telling you about it.
It felt good.
It felt good, and like, oh, there's a power. And I can't describe exactly what this mindset was at that time, but it lodged within me. And I never followed that up with theater in high school or anything like that. But I would say I was always a smart mouth. I think I have always been funny in a way, the way of seeing things. I kind of, I don't like authority. So I would do a lot of kind of, of funny against authority in a way, and comedically, I guess. So it was just, I think my personality is kind of goofy. That's really the best way I can put it. And, but I never said, oh, I'm going to be a sketch person, or I'm going to never.
You might be the most unlikely trajectory of anybody I've talked to on Almost Live to have discovered what you really want to be that late. It's amazing.
Yeah. And to that point, I think it was such an organic process. The only thing that I did, I always say I had this much talent, and I'm holding my fingers apart right now, Pat, because you can't see it, about a quarter an inch.
Oh, I can see it.
I had that much talent, a lot of luck, and then I took the next indicated step when it came my way. You know what I mean? So I did that acting class at Seattle Central. I met Joe, and he's getting involved with Almost Live. So I would do bits in Almost Live, not as a cast member, but on occasion. I just kept taking walking through the next open door. So all of that together led to where I, kind of to a career. And it was the most organic thing. There was nothing planned about it at all.
You tell me a little bit. I always get ahead of myself here, but tell me where you grew up, where you went to grade school, where you went to junior high that you mentioned, in high school. We know you finished up at the UW. Tell us about growing up.
I was born in 1960, Swedish Hospital. And I grew up for the first 8 years of my life in Kirkland. My parents are from Seattle, but they built a house over in Kirkland. So I went to Lakeview Elementary School in Kirkland. Mm-hmm. Then we moved in 1968, I believe, to Magnolia, which we moved into my dad's house because my dad's dad was getting remarried and moving out. So my dad and mom bought that house in Magnolia, lived there. Then I went to Briarcliff Elementary, which was right up the street. I went to Blaine Junior High, which is in the village, Magnolia Village.
Named after President Blaine.
Yeah, and he was a great president.
Yeah, I really wish I'd been alive back then. I wanted to campaign for him.
And then I went to Queen Anne High School. And that was I graduated Queen Anne High School in 1978.
I can't tell you how many times over the years I bump into people, if I'm doing an auction or a speaking event or whatever, just in a store, and people say, hey, do you know Nancy Guppy? And I well, sure. Yeah. We're on that show together. And everybody in town knows you. They went to school with you, or they know you. You have the widest circle of acquaintances of anybody I've ever met.
I wonder if that's partly too, because I grew up here, but also I've kind of kept going in the world of TV stuff. So maybe that's part of that.
This was before all of that.
I mean, really?
Yeah, this is when we were doing the Almost Live show together. It would happen so much. And I thought, and they always had such a nice, happy look on their face, remembering. I mean, you were very well liked.
Well, that's good to hear.
I don't understand why, but
exactly. See, I'm wondering the exact same thing.
So then you get slid into this show, kind of through the back door or over the
totally
Joe.
Yep.
And then what happened from there? What year was
that? So the year that I started doing, I was still working at Nordstrom, and Joe was involved in the show, and I guess that would have been 85 or 6, I think.
Yeah, I think Joe came on in 85.
85. Okay. Yeah. So on occasion, if they wanted a woman, I think Andy Stein might have been working on the show at that point, but sometimes they wanted someone else to do something. So he would say, hey, can you get off work and for a bit that we're going to shoot at the courthouse Thursday afternoon, right? So I would get off work by lying to my boss and say I had a doctor's appointment or something, and I'd go to the thing and I'd do the bit. And so that was fun. It was my foray into TV. I didn't know about Almost Live, and I didn't know about working on camera, and I didn't know about doing sketch comedy, you know. So
Did you watch the show Almost Live?
No, I had no idea what it was.
Bob Nelson told me the other day that
yeah.
when he started working on Almost Live, he told his wife was not interested in watching Almost Live, and Bob said, "You should watch this show." This is before Bob was working on it. You should watch this show, and Bob was intrigued with it, and he finally got on the show. And to Bob's telling, he said, "I was on the show about 2 years," and his wife Valerie said, "Hey, where do you go all day?" And he said, "Well, I'm on that TV show, Almost Live. You should watch it." And she said, "Well, who else is on it?" Isn't that great?
Oh my God, that's just brilliant. Yes,
it really
that's
is.
Fantastic. That's fantastic.
And so I think that that was the thing with Almost Live. It was such a fledgling show.
Right.
Nobody felt like they were the cock of the walk about being on the show, because we never felt it early on in those years anybody was watching anyway.
Right. Which on some level is good, because it was given a lot of free reign to find its way and to find its, get grounded.
I'm Mr. Manners.
And I'm Mrs. Manners. Now, our first letter is from Elsie of Packwood, Washington. Elsie writes, "Dear Mr. and Mrs. Manners, when is it appropriate to seek marital counseling?" Good question. Mr. Manners, go ahead.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think that those days are gone, of course. Everything has to hit right away.
Yeah.
But when I got on the show, it was because I knew you had to write. They weren't hiring actors. You had to be a writer to be on the staff. And this was the year that,
and preferably both. Yeah.
And preferably, oh yeah, absolutely. And when Ross had left and John took over, that was the year that I think that was the year that I got hired as a staff member of the show, which would have been 87. And you, by the way, you were in one of the first bits I wrote, and you edited it for me. Was Nut in the House.
Oh,
and you did
really?
You did such a great job with that. It was, it's an okay idea, as most, percentage wise. You don't always hit it out of the park, that's for sure. But it was good enough that we got to produce it. And you cut that for me, and you did such a good job. Yeah.
Oh man, I forgot about it. I remember the name now that you say it. Nut in the House.
Nut in the House, and you played my dad, and I played basically a very disturbed young girl.
Good morning, Nut.
Morning. Good morning, Nut.
Don't push me!
Well, you were great at playing. I mean this as a compliment. Playing crazy characters.
Yeah.
Because you're anything but. So how do you find that? How do you find that character?
I wish I knew. I like to play the fool. I like to play lower status. I like to break the fourth wall. I like to be surprising. I think in life I like to do that. I like to kind of shake things up, hopefully not in an offensive way. I mean, in an unpleasant way. And so I think I just have a natural propensity to be, to do it, something, go farther than someone might think.
Hello?
Is your refrigerator running?
Yes?
Well, you better go catch it.
Hello?
Do you have Prince Albert and can? Do you have pig's feet? Wear shoes, nobody will notice.
Nuisance. He'll drive you buggy. Coming soon to the theater.
You can get away with it because
I think it's because I'm small.
Of your demeanor. You're small. You're sweet looking. You just this woman. She's no threat. And then when you go there, that's where the surprise comes.
Well, exactly. And you wrote a bit that Ralph Bevins pulled it up. I guess it must have been during a recent election last year or so. It was I was running for city council. It was Susan Mondello. And you wrote it, and I played Susan Mondello. She's a fighter. I think that was the tagline.
That's it. I remember. I was going to ask you about that bit.
Oh my God. It is the funniest thing. And I'm just basically hitting people, smacking people, throwing people down in my little high heels, my little outfit with my little wig and my little perfect little wig. that's I think really encapsulates what you're talking about, the contrast between this,
yes,
skinny little chick.
Yeah,
and
only you could
decking everybody.
Only you. I only thought of you to be that character. It's a fake political ad. And the the theme of it is Susan Mondello. She's a fighter, but you were literally a fighter. You would punch people, kick him in the face,
knee him in the groin. Yeah.
On election day, re-elect Susan Mondello to the city council and let her continue to fight for you. Last year, when a big commercial real estate developer tried to skirt city zoning laws, Susan Mondello stopped him. When a street paving crew started running behind schedule and over budget, Susan Mondello got them back to work. When other members of the city council proposed raising your taxes, Susan Mondello came out kicking. They got the message. Susan Mondello, she's a fighter.
That's one of my favorites too, because you were so perfect for it. And
and I want to say something too, that there was a point along the way where, and I've always appreciated this, Bill Stainton said to me, and he said it very kindly and thoughtfully, but he told me, he said, you're really good at basically crazy and mad. You might want to kind of think about developing other types of characters. And he was right, because those are my go-tos. So I needed to work on the subtler things, the things that didn't have quite such a cartoony, blowout kind of a quality or characteristic to it. So that was really funny. And he was.
Well, I suppose so. But I when you got something that's really working, don't walk away.
I mean, true. And I don't think, of course, he wasn't saying don't do that, but I think he was just saying, that'd be good for you to broaden a little bit.
You along the way, you were already on the show, and then Tracy Conway came on the show full time.
Yep.
As another woman, and I've heard, there was a fellow that wrote a great book a few years ago, Brian Johnston, that wrote about that Bill Stainton admits he thought maybe I had a misogynistic attitude about this, but I assumed that this might not work because I thought these two women would not get along with each other. Based on some biases that he had about the way women think and behave, and that you would be competing with each other and not like each other. And that just wasn't true.
No. And that you're right. So I was in LA, Joe and I were in Los Angeles when Tracy was hired on the show. So when I came back and when I got back and I got back involved on the show, she was an established player. She was very established, and rightly so good. And so it was an interesting thing for me, Pat, because we definitely were a great pair and we got along great. I definitely had some jealousy right at first when I got back involved because I, and I wanted to be important too. That my ego was probably a little bit soft or a little bit fragile. And so I needed to prove myself because she was a proven commodity. And I wasn't at that point. I'd only been on Almost Live for whatever it was, one season, and then we moved to LA. So I came back and I had to really kind of establish myself. And so I had to kind of deal with my own internal feelings of like, I want to be, whatever it is I want to be. And then once we started to, I started to gel with the cast and, with everyone most of the people I knew, but she was new to me. We found what such great rhythm together because we're very different looking. Our strengths are different. And writing for her and I loved writing stuff for the two of us or just for her.
So tell me about what's been going on with you.
Oh.
You look great. You really
thanks,
do. Yeah.
Thanks, you too.
So you were in LA for a while, right?
I was in LA.
Yeah.
And then I came back. Wait, that's a hard question.
I know, it's like, where do you begin?
Yeah,
right?
it is, exactly. Okay, what have I been doing? Just stuff, just the regular stuff. And work and just...
Stuff?
I've been seeing your dad, actually. No, seeing him. Seeing him.
You're seeing my dad?
Frank.
My dad, Frank?
Yeah.
You're seeing my dad, Frank?
Yeah.
Yeah, I need another one here.
It was really, really fun. And then we became very close friends and very complimentary of each other. So she was a wonderful partner to have on the show.
And I would give Tracy a lot of the credit for that. She's just there's nobody that she doesn't like and doesn't like her. She's just that kind of person.
Yep.
I mean, we all well, I guess I'm talking about me. We all have some simmering resentments about some people or some things that happen. Yep. Never see a trace of that in Tracy. In Tracy. She's just
No, I know. She wishes the best for people. She wants them to do really well. We all have our ego, but in a good way. I think you got to have solid, healthy egos, and we all did and do. And but she also there's a magnanimous quality to her, I would say, a generous quality. And and she certainly extended that to me, and I'm forever grateful to them.
Yeah, you got the right person. Let's talk about you going to LA. You were on the show Almost Live with Joe for some years, and I think it was 1989 to maybe 1992 that you two packed up and moved to Los Angeles to work initially on a show called Not Necessarily the News, which at the time was one of my favorite shows. It was a comedic show. It was like a fake newscast.
Not Necessarily the News with Annabelle Gurwitch and Tom Parks. Special reports from Merrill Marco, Richard Rosen, and Joe Guppy.
Both you and Joe went to write for that show.
Yeah.
What was that?
He was first. They grabbed him first as a performer because he had sent his tapes down there when they were kind of doing some reworking with the cast of that show, and they hired him. And then for some reason, they agreed to hire the two of us as a writing team. So now we're a writing team, and he's also going to be a performer on the show. I wasn't a performer on that show, and that was the greatest gift I could have ever received for a number of reasons. First of all, it got me to move away from Seattle, the place I lived my entire life. This is what I knew. This is where I was comfortable. Honestly, Pat, I didn't know how I would do outside of my familiar world. Right.
Yeah.
So first of all, then we are hired as a writing team. And so I have a job, and that's a gigantic thing to go to Los Angeles and have a job that was actually a Writers Guild job. So we got in the Writers Guild, we got an agent, all these things that can be very difficult to get. And then in that experience of being on off the wall players, Not Necessarily the News, and then we did 13 weeks on that, and then they didn't pick up our option. So then we had an agent. So we just popped around to a variety of shows over the next couple of years, none of which were particularly good. But what happened for me in those years, and all the shows we worked on we were writers for the most part. I learned how to write. That's what I learned. And I didn't know it when I was doing it, because we're on these writing staffs, and there's deadlines, and it's very intense, and it's your entire life, which it got a little kooky sometimes, and I got a little kooky sometimes. But when I came back, and we can talk about LA, but when I came back to Seattle and I got back on the show with Almost Live, I recognized, oh my God, I learned how to write sketch. Yeah,
you're a fully formed writer.
Right. And so that was the gift of Los Angeles. And I'm so glad that happened. So glad that happened.
You, and I talked to Joe about this as well. You wasn't all hearts and roses and pleasant memories about LA. There was some trouble along the way.
Oh, sure. Joe and I, we split up. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
No. So, and that's, So let me think. Let me see how that happened. We were down there.
Well, the way Joe tells it, it's all your fault.
And rightly so.
Yeah.
Pat, you know me, and you know that it's a combination of things. But what happened is we were down in LA, and I actually I don't think I had technically a nervous breakdown, but I really got into a very depressed place. And this was in the winter of 92. And so I realized.
Can you remember why?
You know what?
I know a lot of people who have depression. They can't figure out why.
I think I've dealt with depression, very functional depression. I've never been someone who I can't get out of bed. I can't get out of the house, nothing like that. Yeah. But I think I've had cyclical depression at different points all my life. And there was a time in elementary school when I remember why this happened. I don't remember exactly why, but I was taken to the nurse's office. My mother was with me. I think I had written a short story that was there was something disturbing about it. I wish I had it. Still, I don't. And I was being asked about must have been kind of psychological questions or is there something wrong? And I don't know what happened there, but I know that I've always suffered from depression at different points in my life. And again, I would say it probably would circle around maybe once a year. Let's just say once a year. I can't remember if that's exactly true, but the feeling of depression is not a new feeling to me. And so when we were in LA, and I'd seen therapists and that kind of thing over the years, I'd never gone on an antidepressant. I thought, oh no, that's, that's too much, or it's a crutch or whatever it is.
That's what weak people do.
Exactly. I need to pull myself up by my bootstraps. That's what I was taught. Right.
Yep.
So when it hit me in LA, and I thought, I can't go through this down here. I can't handle this down here, because we weren't working at that point. We were between jobs. I think with Joe and I being constantly together, working, living together, I think that unconsciously at that point was probably too much. So I actually moved back to Seattle in January of 92. We drove up, and I stayed with lived with my sister and her family for 4 or 5 months. And I saw this therapist, and I was trying to figure out what's going on. So great. I'm so grateful to my sister for giving me that little refuge. And then at the end of that, that spring, or going into June, that's when Almost Live was going to do the Comedy Central stuff.
Oh yeah.
And so Keister, I don't know if I contacted him or he contacted me, but it was about hey, would you want to do some acting during this Comedy Central chunk of shows that we're going to produce this summer? And I told him, I said, well, I don't just want to act. I would want to write too. I want to be on the staff. And so he was able to work it out so that I was brought on as part of the staff. And so I did that with the all of us doing that 65 shows for Comedy Central, which was amazing. And then I was asked at the end of that run that summer, going back into the normal season of Almost Live, if I wanted to stay on. And so Joe and I decided, obviously we had talked and seen each other during this time, and we decided, yeah, well, that's what we're going to do. So what happened is I flew down to LA. We're going to pack up our apartment and going to come back to Seattle and start up again in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
So the weekend I went down to do the packing up of the apartment. We went out to dinner, some place we liked in LA, and we were spinning out what it's going to look like, and we're going to do this and that. And we went back to our apartment. And as we walked into our apartment in LA, I thought the phrase was in my mind, Pat, was "it's over." And what I meant by that was, I didn't necessarily mean our marriage is over for good, or now it's time to file for divorce. But what I knew was what we're talking about doing, picking up as if everything's just going to carry on as normal, that ain't going to happen. So we got up into the apartment, and I wrestled with myself saying, should I say this? Because I knew it was a big thing to say, but I knew I had to. So I just said, we kind of sat down and said, I have to say something. And I said that, and that we can't just pick up. It's over. And he had pretty much the exact same thought. And we had this visual that we both had at the same time, which was like a black onyx marble, let's just say, and one was kind of in my head and one was in his head, and there was a line between the two, and that was a connection, and that was true, that we were connected, but there was a lot that was surrounding our connection that we had to deal with, and we had to learn how to shed or let go or face or whatever. So we decided, okay, we're going to separate. So I went back, flew back up to LA or back up to Seattle, and I moved into an apartment on Queen Anne, and he came back up, packed up the place, moved back up here, and he moved into his parents' third floor, the third floor of his parents' house. Talk about depressing. So that's where he is, and I'm in my groovy apartment on Almost Live, starting that fall. So we went into this very interesting, 8 or 9 months of being separated and doing therapy. And then at the end of that, we decided basically, well, we've done all the work we can do. We don't want to get divorced. As Joe said, let's shack up. So we got back together.
I love it.
Yeah.
Can you remember any sketches or scripts that you wrote during that time that you were separated that were influenced by your separation?
That's a good one.
It just attitudinally.
Attitudinally, yeah. I did a bit, and this was actually one that I wrote this version of it, but Bob had written the Conversations with Mom script. Remember that? I love that so much. So he has this hilarious conversation with his mother. All you hear is his mom, and you see him on the phone with her. So I did my version of that, and it was my mom being relentlessly positive and happy, and I'm relentlessly negative in everything I'm saying back to her. And she just keeps saying like, oh, because oh, that's not true. And I'm like basically saying, well, I'm super depressed and nobody likes me, and I think I might be a lesbian and all these things. And she's like, oh, that's not possible.
Hello.
Good morning.
Hello, Mother.
What are you doing?
Oh, just plucking hairs out of my chin.
You don't have hairs on your chin?
Yes, I do.
No, you don't.
An hour ago, you would have thought I was a man.
Oh. What a beautiful day it is today.
Oh, I wouldn't know, Mom. I still got the blinds down.
You don't have the blinds down.
Yes, I do.
No, you don't.
It's like a cave in here.
It is not.
I think I prefer the darkness. In fact, I'm just going to get all the windows boarded up.
Oh. Are you doing something fun with your friends tonight, dear?
I don't have any friends, Mom.
You have lots of nice friends.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
My last friend was Kim, and she moved away in the 3rd grade.
She didn't move away.
Yes, she did.
No, she didn't.
Anyway, everyone hates me.
Oh. How's that nice boyfriend?
I don't have a nice boyfriend.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't.
That one from Thanksgiving?
Oh, yeah, the one who dumped me.
He didn't dump you.
Yes, he did.
No, he didn't.
Maybe I'm a lesbian.
You are not a lesbian.
Well, I'm attracted to Cindy Crawford.
Everyone thinks that she's pretty.
Well, maybe you're a lesbian, Mom.
Well, I have to go, honey. I have lots of errands to run. It's good to stay busy. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Okay. Talk to you tomorrow, Mom.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Relational kind of comedy.
Yeah. I think I could have seen that. I didn't really know where you and Joe stood during that time.
Did you know that? But you knew something must have been going on, right?
Yeah, I think so. I can't remember exactly, but was there ever a thought that Joe should also come back to Almost Live, or was that was that part of the deal? That no, you go do your thing, I'm going to do my thing.
I think luckily he wasn't interested in that anymore. He felt like he'd done sketch. Mm-hmm. Second of all, I definitely needed to be on my own. We never discussed it like that, but I needed to be on my own there and kind of be my own person. And there wasn't also room on the show for another white guy. You know what I mean? So I think that combination made it was never an issue. And I'm really glad about that, because that could have been super difficult.
Well, I think Joe successfully sublimated his ego, because like you say, I mean, once you get a taste of that, it's an intoxicant, and you like being recognized on the street. It's fun. Yep. You make people laugh, and it's heady. And
it is very heady. It's very exciting. And I think with Almost Live, I don't know if there was another show that, certainly from my perspective, that I could have bloomed in the way that show allowed me to do. There was so much latitude that we were allowed to find our, to write what we wanted to write, fight hard for stuff, sometimes winning the fight to get something produced, and then it wasn't funny, and then you kind of go, oh, I guess it wasn't as funny as I thought it was. But then often things were great and you felt great about that. So it was an amazing job.
Good evening. Studies of studies are more likely to find findings than the studies themselves, a study found today. When several completed studies are gathered together to form a larger subsequent study, the significance of the further findings is increased significantly. Furthermore, studies that find findings are far superior to studies that fail to find findings, the study found, primarily because of funding. Quote, a study that finds findings is 55% more likely to bring further funding than a study that fails to find findings, the study found.
This has been a special report. We'll now return you to our...
And you came to that job after going through the crucible of working in L.A.
Yeah.
It must have felt like, oh my God, this isn't even work. This is fun, and the pressure's off, and I can really just think about writing scripts and going to lunch and all of this.
Yeah, exactly. The almost live lunch. I think, it was a different kind of, certainly the pressure, the stakes, it's not that the stakes were lower, it's just that they're different.
Yeah.
And I think though, I remember distinctly the first pitch meeting to pitch material once I was back, and this was the first time, the first pitch meeting for the Comedy Central shows that we were going to be doing in that summer of 92. And I had never pitched by myself. I'd always been with Joe, or in LA, we just worked, we were working on scripted shows, not sketch shows necessarily. So I remember like probably a couple days before the pitch meeting, the Almost Live one, I was in a panic. And I thought, oh my God, I can't do this. I remember so well. And I remember thinking to myself, Pat, we were at lunch one day, I think in the lunchroom at King. Let's just say the pitch meeting was on a Thursday. This would have been a Tuesday. I remember desperately wanting to say to John, and maybe you were there, Tracy, or whoever was at the table, I wanted to tell how panicked I was. I wanted to share my insecurity. And something in me said, don't do it. Don't say it. Don't do it. No, don't put this on them right now. Hold on. Call Joe later. Let him know that you're freaking out. And which I did. And he kind of talked me down. And then I was able to, kind of focus and write a few bits. And then went to the pitch meeting a couple days later, pitched stuff, and a few things, went well and were green lit. But it was the greatest lesson to me of don't burden people with your own insecurity.
Because they've got theirs.
And now they're going to have to think about you, and you haven't proven yourself yet here. Yeah. And they're thinking like, oh God, did we make a mistake? And then so it was just like, it's like, contain yourself, and I've never forgotten that. That was such a great, a little lesson that thank God I was able to listen to that little tiny voice inside my head.
That's great.
Said, don't open your mouth.
That is great. I'm like you. Those pitch meetings were just excruciating for me.
Oh my God.
I tried to come as late as I could.
It's painful because you want things to go over well, and some people are better at pitching than others, and some material is going to be better. It's just, your ego's on the line to a degree. There's a lot going on there.
And I don't think that I was arrogant, but I do feel like I know this is going to be a good bit. It'll work because I'm going to do it, and I'm going to edit it, and it will work. Yeah. And I just resented that I have to pitch it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And I have to say, Pat, I know you're going to poo-poo this, but that was pretty much true for you. You were arrogant. No, I'm kidding. You were your stuff was consistently funny and good, and if you did it, and if you it was going to work. That was pretty much Pat Cashman. You were in a class by yourself. It's very true, and I'm not blowing smoke. I'm telling, this is a fact. That's not fake news. That's real news.
Well, if you consider me arrogant, then I shall never speak to you again, Nancy Guppy.
Arrogant in a good way.
Here's a bit I forgot to ask Joe Guppy about, but you were in it too. And it was the stupidest bit. I can't remember whose idea it was. I think it might have been Joe's, but it was the staring contest, staring bit. Do you remember that one?
Oh, yes. Oh, I see. I can see you in that. And it was you and Joe in the staring contest. Yeah. And I remember a lot of lines of yours from different bits of yours. I can directly say lines that you wrote and performed. This one, you said something like, "I'm very impressive." And I think basically Joe and I had probably just had sex, because that was.
Yeah. No, the bit was that Joe and I decide arbitrarily we're going to do a staring contest.
Yes.
And we carry it on, and it goes on apparently for days, weeks, months, and maybe even years.
Right.
And you and Joe get married, and you're wearing your wedding dress, and Joe's in a tuxedo. And then we widen the camera out, and you see that Joe is not looking at you. He's looking at me, because we're still doing the staring contest. Yeah. And then it's your honeymoon night, and you and Joe are in the sack together. Yep. And
smoking afterwards, right? We're having a cigarette.
Yeah. And you say, "Oh, Joe, you were great." And then I say, because I'm staring at Joe, "Very impressive, Joe." The dumbest bit.
Oh, it's so good. But that one sticks with me. Oh my God, Pat, there are so many lines of yours. Oh, Joe and I say your stuff all the time. The plumber stuff. You have a plumber.
That was the first, I think that was the first shoot we all three did together. Plumber.
This is Plumber, starring Rock Debris as J.T. Plumber and Arnold Clambeau as Billy Piper. Tonight's episode, Plunge into Fear.
And I mentioned this to Joe in my conversation with him. But there's one scene that we did that somebody decided that we shouldn't use. And you say, "The plumber, I couldn't help noticing your cock."
Yeah.
And I say, "Oh, no, man, that's actually an adhesive that we use to seal cracks in bathtubs." It would be such a slam dunk to use it today, but it shows you we still had this kind of self-imposed kind of censorship.
Oh my God, I remember that, but we didn't use that, right? No.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. When you did the wonderful bit, which I think is your signature bit, called "Capable."
This looks like a job for capable woman.
It's time for the adventures of Capable Woman, the new superhero who isn't new exactly. It's just she's finally broken through the male-dominated superhero power structure and is just now getting the recognition that is so rightly hers. Capable Woman.
That was just a killer bit. You were this superhero woman that the premise was that men if you give men an opportunity to do something, they're going to fuck it up every time. And so that was fun to do. You're a capable woman that will come and she saves the day, makes men still maintain their dignity and their sense of self because you show them how to do something. But at the beginning of that bit,
yes,
at the end of the bit, you say, "I might not have big tits, but but the word tits got on the air."
Yeah.
I can't think of an exception to that on Almost Live.
Wonder Woman may have big tits, but she doesn't know jack about the chromatic scale.
Right, like Wonder Woman may have big tits, but she doesn't know jack about whatever it was that I had just done. Right? Yes.
Yeah, you can't even really consider that a curse word.
I don't know how.
It's too friendly sounding.
Well, maybe that's part of it. But I think
it's really no worse than boobs, and people say that all the time.
Tits is it's such a slangy word.
But you remind me now that I mention that, you did one of the most daring and hilarious bits that is a standout for me. You did a woman on the street thing, and somebody helped you rig up balloons underneath your blouse, and that you could control. And so you could it would appear that your breasts got bigger and bigger and bigger. And then you would then you would stop men on the street. I don't think you stopped a woman, but it would always.
I did. I stopped both men and women.
Oh, you did. Okay, so you would ask them, which do you like better? This, which you were normal, and then you would inflate these breasts so they'd go out to be like 36s, 38s,
right?
And you say, or this, and which do you prefer? and men would always go, oh, that one. Yeah.
Oh, that. Oh, yeah. Bigger. Got to go bigger.
Bigger.
Yeah.
Go bigger.
What do you think looks better on me? Just like this or like that? This, just the way I am, or that?
Or what?
Like that, definitely.
Really? Okay.
Bigger.
Right there.
Bigger. Higher.
Do we feel it, actually?
Where are you from?
Like this, the way I look like this, or...
Oh,
What looks better?
that looks really good.
Okay.
I love it.
This or that?
So, later on you're doing what? After the interview you're doing
Hanging out with you.
Oh, you can go a little more than that, can't you?
No, I like little.
Okay.
Before, definitely.
Is this like for a psychological study?
No.
I liked it before.
You did?
Yeah, a little bit bigger.
Fire. Down on the left.
Gotta go bigger.
So you'd already contrived an ending for the bit where you would just keep going and going and going, assuming that they were going to burst, and that would be the end of the bit.
Yes.
And tell everybody what happened.
And they didn't. So it's like, well, stop a guy, and it was Hans Eric, our whatever he was, a producer at that time. So what do you think looks better, this or this? And I start inflating them, and they inflate pretty quick, and it's going and going, and then I'm waiting for it to pop, and they're not, and I'm looking really, my face is contorting because I'm thinking, oh my God, this is going to hurt so much.
You're wincing because you know that you don't want
totally, and then
it's
ripping whatever bra or shirt that I had underneath had had this stuff attached to, and that's ripping, and it never stops. Keep going. So finally we just had to fade out. I think I said anytime you can tell me to stop.
Oh God.
That was a fun one. And that bit was.
And that was your idea, right?
That was my idea. And the reason I came up with that idea is that's always been an insecurity of mine as a woman. Like, I always wanted bigger breasts. And so my way of dealing with my insecurity, like, I'm sure when I was younger, I was, been teased like, oh, you're flat chested, which, no girl likes that. So this was my way of handling that insecurity. I thought, okay, not only am I going to draw attention to it, I'm going to literally blow it up. I'm going to put it out there for all the world to see. So it kind of undercut that kind of, because it was painful for me growing up. You know what I mean? I wanted to.
No,
that's
why it's such a perfect and brilliant and statement, a bit about the way men are, and men and women. It's just really that bit is one of my all-time favorites.
Oh, thanks. That was fun to do.
It
was, Man on the Street. And Man on the Street, you know how that is. You have a level of energy for Man on the Street pieces, and then it's like you got to stop because you're stopping people. You never know what they're going to say. It takes a tremendous amount of energy to do that, and Ralph Bevins cut that perfectly.
Yeah. You have an expectation of how you wanted it to go, and then so you're a little worried, like, what if this doesn't work? Nobody said no. What are you doing? I don't want.
Right. Oh, exactly. And you're gonna get some of that. People are going to shine you on, so you have to just kind of soldier through it. So
you nailed it. It was really good.
It was fun to do.
And you did a lot of, like I said, you wrote a lot of female oriented sketches with you and then Tracy, and that was really essential for the show. Obviously, what was also essential and would be paramount today would be that there would be far more diversity on the show.
Oh my God!
It was basically a bunch of white people, and then somebody finally figured out, well, we got to at least get an Asian person on. We got to get some black people on, but they were never full-time parts of the show, and if there's an embarrassment about it, I guess it would be that. But it was it was what it was at the time that it was.
Yep.
But we made those efforts in the latter years of the show.
Yeah, we did. And I don't know if it was at that, like later in the year, in the latter years, if we would have, if one of us would have needed to leave to bring somebody on, that's possible. So in terms of like the budgetary piece,
yeah.
But regardless of the reasons, that is a weakness, to put it mildly.
Yeah.
No question about it. Yeah.
So you did, and you did, one of the things that people talk about a lot is you and Tracy would do these bits, about women in Linwood, and why Linwood was picked out, I don't know, but it's still,
I feel like Linwood is still how we portrayed it then. I still feel that way about Linwood.
Yeah, a lot of places aren't. Kent, Ballard, they're all different, but Linwood, still big hair and a lot of makeup.
Yeah, exactly. Blue eyeshadow.
Are you tired of the same old hair, the same old look, the same old you? What you need is a visit to the Linwood Beauty Academy. At the Linwood Beauty Academy, you'll learn all the secrets of those fabulous women you've always admired. And don't forget our famous perfume Super Pump. Choose from enticing aromas that have driven Linwood men crazy for years, like musk, strawberry, and slightly damp sheepskin seat cover.
Thank you. I feel as beautiful as those girls in the Whitesnake videos.
Learn the head-turning secrets of the beautiful women of a nondescript suburb, right here at the Linwood Beauty Academy.
Thank you for spending this time, Nancy, with me. Before we go,
super fun.
I got to tell you something personal that has bugged me forever.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to get this off my chest. Back in those days, I was a serious jogger, runner for health purposes. Mm-hmm. I have heart disease in my family, and I thought and a lot of my family got really overweight and big, and so early on I decided I gotta exercise every day. I gotta stay slim, as slim as possible. And so I would run, and I ran a lot. I'd run 7 miles a day, 50 miles a week. Just for myself. And I thought, I'm not bad. When I'd be out on the running trail, I would see somebody coming up behind me, and that would motivate me I'm not going to let them pass me no matter what. They're not going to pass me. And I just kill myself and it's just me by myself. I never ran with anybody else.
Yeah.
Except one day, during a break in Almost Live, it was a Saturday, and my usual routine was that I would run from King, which was located on Dexter Avenue, and I'd run up and over the hill, and I'd go over towards Fremont. I'd go, that'd be my run. I'd turn around and come back. Mm-hmm. And one day, I can't remember why, but you said, "Hey, I'm going to run. Let's run together. Let's go together." And well, okay, yeah, I guess that'd be okay. And all I remember is that you so supremely and effortlessly smoked me.
You're kidding.
That day. You were just, God, you were running, and I'm one. I got to stop. I'm gassed here, and you just kept going and going, and I thought, I can't quit. No, I got to stay, and I just couldn't do it, and I finally just had to stop as you went.
I don't remember that. I remember running.
You wouldn't remember.
I do not remember you stopping. I do not remember you showing any sign.
I think I did. I just couldn't. I thought, I'm either going to have a heart attack or I'm going to have to stop. And so I just felt you gave me a lesson in what being really in shape is all about.
Well, I'm glad I was able to teach you something.
I think you got 10 years on me, so there was that.
And there was that. But, how old? How old are you? I'm going to be 60 in June, the end of this month.
Well, I said you have 10 years on me, so you figure it out.
You're not 70.
No, I'm not yet.
Not yet.
Check in with me in a few months.
Okay. Oh, yes. Okay. Wow.
And I will be at Widow of the Woods nursing home. Hey, but seriously, thank you. This has been great.
So fun, Pat.
I think this will be fun. I just thought maybe something that Almost Live fans and they are legion, believe it or not. They
they are. Yeah.
Like this.
I say
and you've been so candid, and I love that.
Before you go, I have to do my the plumber thing. Okay. Okay. So wait a minute, Billy.
Wait.
I know what you're feeling, Billy.
I know what you're feeling.
No, you don't.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do, Billy.
Yes, I do, Billy.
Now you can stay out here and you can whine and you can cry and you can blubber like a baby.
You can stay out here and you can whine and you can cry and you can blubber like a baby.
Okay. Or get back in there and unclog that sink.
You can get in there and help me unclog that sink.
What's it gonna be, Billy?
What's it gonna be, Billy?
Well, can't I just stay out here for this one job?
What, can't I just stay out here for this one job?
Oh, this one job.
Yeah, you can stay out here for this job.
And then what's it gonna be next time, Billy Piper?
And then what's it gonna be next time, Billy Piper?
A leaking faucet? Or a broken washer?
Some leaky faucet? Or a broken washer?
Or some crumbling caulking around the tub?
Or maybe some crumbling caulking around the tub?
What's it gonna be, Billy?
What's it gonna be, Billy?
You want me, you know where I'm at.
You wanna help me, you know where I'm at.
Oh my God, you're killing me.
I know, see?
Oh,
I have
that's so funny. It was of another time. And
it was.
But it was, we were so lucky to get to do it.
So lucky. Yeah. Okay, my friend. Well, this was lovely. Thank you so much, Pat.
Okay, Nance. Thank you, and thank Joe again for me. And
I sure will.
We'll talk again.
All right, sweets. Love you. Bye.
You too, Nance.
The Almost Live, Still Alive podcast. Produced and edited by Morris Patrick Cashman. Technical director is Dave Tavers. Special gratitude to the legendary Kenneth George Buford McCaw, Almost Live's chief archivist. And thanks also to King TV Seattle. This program was made possible in part by the 12th century nun and mystic Hildegard von Bingen, inventor of spoken language. And by Emil Berliner, creator of the microphone. And I'm your announcer, that kid from Sluggy, Chris Cashman.